Okay, awesome. Welcome to the 2024 NASW-TX election info session. We are just in full swing for election season this year and doing our best to recruit as many leaders as we can for our open positions. My name is Jess. I am the Community Engagement Coordinator at NASW Texas, and I work very closely with our volunteer leadership to make sure that everybody has what they need to succeed, and member resources. I work a lot with branch chairs to help support programming at the local level, all sorts of good stuff. And so if you do step into leadership or you're choosing to do so, hopefully we'll get to see each other more often. And Brandy, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Brandy Felderhoff. By day, I'm faculty at Texas Women's University in Denton, Texas, in currently our Joint Master of Social Work program. And starting in the fall, I'll be our new director of our field director of our MSW program. I say that wrong every time. It's MSW Field Coordinator. I'm still learning, y'all. But I also am currently the president of the board for NASW Texas. And I've been in various leadership positions with my involvement in NASW over the years. I like to say that I've been an NASW member longer than I've been a social worker because I joined NASW as a student in '07 and I didn't actually get my license until 2009. So yeah, that's kind of a fun tidbit. But I've served as branch chair. I've served on our local steering committee. I've served on social work advocacy day planning committee. I've served on the conference committee. I was vice president of the board before I was in my role as president. So I've been in a lot of places and have experience in some of the things we're going to talk about tonight. I'm just really honored that Jess asked me to be here. Thanks, Jess.
Awesome. Thanks for joining me, Brandy. And even though Brandy and I are going to be the main presenters for this presentation, we did actually just have an interim nominations and leadership identification committee state chair just join us. So Ashley, if you just want to kind of identify yourself and say hey to folks and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I don't have a big thing like Brandy, but a great introduction. But by day, I work at Travis County as a social services manager. I've been there 7 years now. I was the NASW in Mississippi, and I joined in Texas in 2017. I'm in our steering committee at the Capitol Branch area. I love working closely with Jess and Brandon, everyone. Everyone's so great. So nice to meet you all. And here's my information if you all need any questions or anything, and we can try to work together and figure it out. But thanks so much for being here tonight. And I'm thankful to be here as well.
Thanks, Ashley. I'm so glad you could be on. Thanks, y'all. And I do have a prompt for some chat intros if anybody else just wants to introduce kind of as well in the chat just to make sure. But also I wanted to make sure that folks know how to access their branch area. I don't want to cut anybody off, we're here to build community, but I know we also got a lot to get through today, so I just want to make sure we're given a chat intro option. Let me just make sure I have this in the chat here, just in case folks do not know what branch they're in, because that would be important info for this leadership
Jess,
opportunity.
thank you guys. I'm sorry. I'm not gonna. I promise not to steal the show.
That's okay. No, we appreciate your passion and just happy to have folks who are eager to step into leadership. This is a really great opportunity to, find other social workers in the community, build strong relationships, be a mentor for emerging social workers. So, the passion for the profession is what we're looking for. So we appreciate that. And so, yeah, I'm just going to leave this up for just a second in case folks want to look at it. But just to give an overview, we have 11 regions across NASW Texas, and within those regions, we have 26 branches scattered across our large geographic area. So we're one of the largest branches of the 55 NASW national chapters. And so where you are located will help you basically decide and figure out what you're eligible to run for. And so we'll get into all of the open positions right in just a little bit, but want to make sure people know what branch they are a part of. And hopefully folks can answer that in their little chat intro as well, because we want to see where you're from. If you tell us where y'all are coming from, it'll also help us kind of understand the crowd we're speaking to throughout the next couple of slides as well. So if you don't know your branch, go ahead and take a moment to figure it out. The link is in the chat. While y'all are dropping intros and identifying your branches, I just want to go over a couple of housekeeping. So cameras on if you're comfortable. We ask that folks stay on mute if they're not talking. If there's background noise, we'll just, quietly mute you. It's no big deal. We ask that folks utilize the hand raise function just because I am screen sharing and can't see you. So if you can use that hand raise function, it'll help me identify folks who would like to contribute. And then I also wanted to add this presentation is being recorded so that we can distribute it to folks who registered but aren't able to attend. And y'all will get it afterwards as well, in an email over the next couple of days. So thank you so much again for joining us. And I'm actually going to go ahead and pass it to Brandy to talk about all of our open leadership positions for this year. And thanks so much. Kick it away, Brandy.
Yeah, thanks. So we have a list here on the screen, and I've actually got that same list pulled up on my other screen as well. So as we talk through some positions, I can reference back to it. But these are all of our positions that are either currently open or going to be opening in this election cycle. And I say currently open because we do have a few places where we don't actively have people in these positions. So some of those positions are open right now. The majority of these are positions that are coming open in our election cycle. And we're going to talk about what each of these positions entails. But just a brief overview, we have a president-elect position, somebody going to come along behind me, that's coming open. We have a vice president position. We've got region rep positions for regions 1, 2, and 6. And when you look at that link that Jess shared with the map, it'll show you the region. So if you're not sure, like I know I'm in this branch, but I don't know what region that is, the map will help you figure that out. And then every year we have BSW and MSW student board member positions. All of those fall under our board of directors. Then we have branch chair positions for our branches all throughout the state. I'm not going to read those to y'all, but y'all can see them right here on the screen. We have NLIC positions. We'll talk about what those are. And then we have some positions for delegate assembly, which I'm probably going to spend a little more time on than maybe we have in the past, because those are positions I don't think people always know a lot about, but they're really important positions. So we'll talk about those positions too here in just a minute.
Awesome. And I just want to make sure I just want to make sure I can drop this link in the chat really quickly, because this might just help people if they have it pulled up. Oh, not very silly.
It's not being nice to you, is it?
I know, it's because I have so many Zoom things up on top of this screen. Y'all can't see. Okay, cool. I'll move on from here. But just wanted to put that in the chat because this is a PDF that has this listed in a different format in case folks are having difficulty reading this slide.
There it goes. Okay. So branch chair, we'll start there. What is a branch chair? Who can be a branch chair? What can you do? Anybody who is an NASW member can be a branch chair, which is really kind of scary. I stepped into the branch chair position straight out of my master's program, pretty much. I think I had like one partial year on the steering committee, and I'd started showing up and I was real energetic, and they said, "Hey, we need a branch chair for next year. Why don't you do it?" And I was like, but I did it, and it was really great, and I really enjoyed it. So you must be a member in good standing, and you can either nominate yourself or somebody within the branch or steering committee can nominate you as well. There are some things you have to contribute to that nomination, but people have nominated others before, and of course they choose to accept or not accept that position. This is a local level position. So this is you, going back to that regions map that Jess showed us, this is you working within your local branch area to lead whatever activities it is that your branch wants to be involved in. And every branch does it differently. So like our branch, we stay on the academic calendar and we meet monthly, like pretty much August or September through May. Some branches, they do 1 or 2 meetings or events a year. They might do one in the fall and one in the spring. Some branches do a CEU series. So they do 3 or 4 like quarterly kind of series. So it can be whatever you and your branch want it to be, but you're the driver, sitting in the driver's seat of what you want that to look like within your branch, with help of your steering committee and other leaders in the area. Your NLIC board members, those sorts of people will also participate. And the big key there, right, is the things we all love about NASW, creating opportunities for networking, for advocacy when there's needs for that, and really being the spearheader that coordinates those activities. In addition to that, the chapter has developed some really awesome resources that we ask you guys as much as possible to engage with. So we have a monthly Zoom meeting call for branch chairs where the chapter provides updates and information and a space for you to ask questions like, "Hey, I'm having my first steering committee meeting and I have no idea what I'm doing. Can you help me with that?" And we'll go, "Yeah, here's some ideas of how we've done those steering committee meetings." We expect that you engage with your region rep, board member, as well as other board leadership. Sometimes we'll reach out to you and go, hey, branch chairs, can you push this information out? Or can you tell us if you're seeing this challenge in your area? We want to come up with some ways to address it. Communicate your local activities to members in the area and to board reps and chapter staff, so we can help promote those activities for you as well. You kind of oversee financial activities at the branch level, and I say kind of oversee because it's not like you've got money in hand, right? That money stays at the chapter but gets dispensed or reimbursed to help you manage activities in your local branch. And there is some money at the chapter level for you from fees for members. Typically, it's not enough to do everything we always want to do in the branches unless you're in a really large branch, but it's something to start with, which helps you be able to put on activities. And then we also ask that you help promote and attend state conference if you're able. Not everybody can always make it to conference, but we like for you to shoot for that as a goal, and then attend our Leadership Institute in July each year. And if there's questions as we talk about this, because I talk fast and I say a lot of things, feel free to put them in the chat or use your raise your hand function. I'm happy for us to talk about them as we go. All right, so NLIC branch representatives, this is our nomination and leadership identification chair. And these positions also happen at the branch level. These individuals must be nominated and run for election or appointed if we have an opening between election cycles, just like the branch chairs. Oh, I think I need to say, we didn't say this on the branch chair side. Branch chair is a 2-year appointment. NLIC is a 3-year appointment, just so people know like time frame that you're signing up for. With the NLIC, your biggest job is to help us recruit for leadership and to help us with awards and the award cycle each year. So, and there's some specific responsibilities here related to like maintaining those timelines, making sure information gets submitted, and then helping to identify those people. And so individuals who are interested in this or might consider this position are people who like to talk to people, because that's part of it, is like getting out and getting to know people. Do you know people that you might suggest for an open position or for a leadership position or a committee position? Do you know people that might be a good awardee in our social work award categories that we do every year? And if you don't know people, are you willing to get to know people? Because I can guarantee you there's other people in your branch that do. And so making some of those connections and reaching out to them and going, who do you know? We're looking for a leader. We're looking for a candidate for this award, et cetera, et cetera. And that can be done by phone call. It can be done by text message. It can be done by email. So like whatever methods of communication you like to use to reach out, it's totally fine. But it's really important that these individuals stay connected with the branch and are looking to help recruit for leadership positions and for our awards each year.
And NLIC are great for people who are just, active community members. I know we're kind of getting off track, but I did ask Lynn Jackson to come on just to briefly talk about, maybe how academia really crosses with this one. So could you just take maybe just 1 minute to talk about that? Because you said something really great in the branch meeting the other day. So I wanted to highlight that in the recording today.
Hi, everyone. So I served as an NLIC at my local branch in the Texoma branch for a couple of years, and then was lucky enough to serve at the as the state chair. And then I also went on and did it at the national level as a rep, and then also as the national chair. So it's an amazing experience. What I found was that both when I was at UNT and even when I was at TCU, the upside to doing NLIC was that I really understood the process better to be able to encourage my students to be able to participate. So I had a number of students, Seth Mobilio being one student that was able to who's our former president, that served as a student rep. And then I've had students that also went on to serve on the national board. And part of that was just being able to know that. And so it works really well because in faculty, you've got to do some sort of professional service. And so this is a great way to be able to mix your NASW stuff along with what you're doing. And then even now, even though I'm not a rep, I understand the process. So I still encourage students to do it. I'm able to explain it to them. I can sit down and walk them through like how to write a personal statement. So I encourage you to think about that. And then I've served in other roles as a branch chair. I was president 1 year for 2 years. the other upside to doing that again in the faculty role is, again, you can bring all that in, be role modeling for the students. But the thing I've always found is that when you are like in these leadership positions, you can decide when the meetings are and things like that. So it's kind of nice to be able to make them at a time when it's convenient too. So I encourage you all to do it. I'm always happy if I can give anybody information, or if you want to talk to me, I'm happy to be able to do it. I've been able to balance it, and I'm happy to share what I've learned about the process.
Thanks, Lynn. I just wanted to take that time because we actually have quite a few open NLIC spots. And so I just really want to make sure that folks know the importance of it, understand that it is attainable, and especially if you're in a position of social work leadership or social work academia, it could really fit well with what you're already working on and in the communities you're with. So let's keep moving on. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thanks, Lynn. That's great. So the next positions I'm going to talk about are the BSW and MSW student board rep positions. Individuals nominating or being nominated for these positions now, right? Because we're in our active election cycle now, need to have at least 2 semesters left as of July 1st this year. So meaning they're going to go through the next academic term. That way they're still a student for the most part while they're serving with us on the board. It is a 1-year commitment. So they join the board in July and they roll off the end of June, 1st of July the next year. And they represent the concerns of BSW and MSW students on the board. And I'll give you like a really great example. This year, we had some really great reps this last year who had some great conversations with students that attended the conference and came back to us and said, hey, here's some of the concerns and some of the struggles for students to be able to afford to attend conference. If there's ways we could do something to address this in the future, we would really love to talk about that. And so we've been able to put together like a committee that's looked at some of how we can help address that for students in the future, so students can come to conference and get the benefits of being able to network with us there. So it's those kind of things that we love to hear from our students on. They attend quarterly board meetings with us. 3 of them are, well, 2 of them for sure on Zoom. 1 is in person at conference. And then we're hoping to get back to doing 1 additional in-person board meeting each year. And then they really just engage with their colleagues, their BSW and MSW colleagues, depending on their position, throughout the state, throughout the year. And we help and encourage them to do that in a number of ways. So you want to hit the next slide there, Jess? Thanks. Okay, delegate assembly. I would love for you, especially those of you that have your camera on, to tell me if you have ever heard of or know anything about delegate assembly. Like, just raise your hand if you know it exists. Yeah, that's what I thought. You can use the raise your hand function too. I'm not seeing any of them. 1 person, and it's Lynn. Surprise. Okay. So delegate assembly is our body with NASW National that takes a look at our code of ethics and approves potential changes to our code of ethics. They look at our professional standards and review changes and updates to our professional standards, as well as our policy statements that we put out. And it's kind of an important job. I'll be real honest. I'd never participated in delegate assembly until I was president. And now that I've done it, I kind of want to do it again. So I probably will, because we only have the actual delegate assembly meeting every 3 years. So I will be off as president before we have another delegate assembly meeting. But the thing that's really cool about it is that you get to be with people from literally all over the US being represented and making these decisions and giving feedback. You get to represent the state of Texas and our needs and concerns related to policy decisions, related to updates in our code of ethics, related to practice standards. It is a 3-year position, but the majority of the time, it compared to some of the other positions that we've talked about, it is probably a less time-intensive position unless it's a delegate year. And even then, like, it's a couple of days versus like meetings all throughout the year, like some of our other positions do. So we have openings for delegate assembly in the aging, in the mental health area, in the children and families area, human rights, macro practice, and then 2 at large in an alternate position coming open. And so if you practice in any of those areas, areas and you're interested in having the opportunity to influence our policy statements, our professional standards, or our code of ethics, I would strongly encourage you to apply. It's very different from any of our other leadership opportunities at the state level, and it's a great responsibility. So I'm happy to answer more questions about that if anybody has them as we go. But I do think, I don't know that I'd ever heard it explained in a way that I would have understood it until I went to the delegate assembly meeting this year. And I think it's a really important position that we need to do a good job of representing, especially because we have a lot of delegate positions.
That's what I was going to actually add is Texas has 9, other states have a couple. So it is a national body that we have Texas seats on, and we, to do our due diligence and make sure that we're represented to the fullest capacity possible, we need to ensure that we're not letting these opportunities be unfilled.
Thanks, Jess. Before we go there, we didn't talk about board positions. Did we skip that slide?
I might have accidentally.
There. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I might have looked past it. That's wild. Okay, I'm so glad you caught that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So regional board reps are another really important position. And I think this position is a lot of fun, truthfully. And I say that as a person who's never served on it, which is kind of funny. But anyway, what I think is fun about this position is you get an opportunity to represent your branches within your region that you're over at the board meetings. And so you get to be involved in our quarterly board meetings and participate and bring issues that you are seeing coming up in your areas. You get to be the voice for your region at the board level, but you get to do it without some of the more executive administrative pieces of the other positions on the board, like the president and the vice president and second vice president and all of that. So it's like a way to dip your toe into the board. If you're looking for a way to dip your toe in, I think it's a great opportunity to do that. So the primary, and it's a nominated position or an appointed position. So you nominate and are elected, or if there's an open position because there's nobody in your area and we're in between election cycles, you can be appointed into the position. And you really do serve as the liaison. So we always encourage region reps, like after the board meeting, to report back to your branch chairs and your NLICs. Hey, here's some of the big things we talked about at the board meeting this time. How do you guys feel about these things? Do you have any questions? If you've got things you want me to represent at the next board meeting, please let me know. And let's make sure we talk about that before the next board meeting and bring those things to us. So they maintain that communication between membership and branch chairs. They represent their regional concerns. Of course, they attend those meetings. We also ask that they promote and try to attend the state conference. It's really exciting when board members are at the state conference and have an opportunity to engage with like our exhibitors, to engage with new members, which was really fun this year. I don't know, for those of y'all that went to conference, Jessica had a bell. She would ring it every time there was a new member. It was really exciting. But I can't tell you how many times we hear from people that come to our conference as a vendor in some way, or as a speaker, how honored they were that our board members come around and engage with them and talk to them and introduce themselves as that. So we love it when our board members can come to state conference. We also do ask that you attend a leadership institute in July each year, or at least your first year in your position. And then participate in other committees that you may join as part of the board. We also have the responsibility to evaluate our chapter executive director and his performance evaluation on an annual basis. And so that's a part of your responsibilities in the regional rep position as well.
Thanks, Brandy. I did just realize the 2 positions that are not on this are president-elect and vice president, which are also on the ballot for this year. They were not last year, which is why I didn't make it on.
Okay, I can talk about them. Do you want to just go back to the page with all the positions, and that way
let me pull that up. Confusing. Just to have them all pulled up, just to remind us where the are. But let's talk about president stuff.
Yeah, I don't mind talking about that at all because we do. I've been in both of those, so that's great. So we have a president-elect position. Marisol, I'll answer that question in just a minute. And Virginia, I saw your hand too, so don't worry. The president-elect, so the way our presidential cycle works, and this comes from national, so all of our chapters across the US operate this way. But when you're elected into the president-elect position, you spend a year shadowing the current president. So if you decide to run for that, you will shadow me for the next year. Sorry, or yay, however you feel. So you'll shadow me for the next year. And then you'll have a year of being the president by yourself. My term will end, I'll roll off. You'll be the president all by your lonesome, super exciting. And then for the third year of your term, you'll have a president shadowing behind you. You'll have a president-elect shadowing behind you. And so that's kind of the way the cycle works each time. So I'm in my standalone year, and one lucky person out there is going to get elected president-elect, and they'll come in and shadow me next year. This is an exciting position if you like to be involved in shaping our profession. I'm a nerd. I'm a really nerdy nerd. This stuff excites me. I get real hype about it. I have to call our chapter executive director often and tell him to like put the fire out on my head because I'm ready to go to battle because there's advocacy things we need to be doing something about. So this is a really fun position for me. And I think it's a great opportunity to spread your influence throughout our state in some ways. But the biggest responsibilities for this position are to engage well with chapter staff, like be able to have good relations with chapter staff, which is really important. I think you do also have to have previously served in some other leadership positions within the state. I'm not remembering that whole piece 100%, but there is a specific requirement about that somewhere in there. And you do lead the board meetings, the quarterly board meetings 4 times a year. We also have a monthly executive committee meeting, which you can set the date and time for, but where we meet with the rest of the executive team and with chapter staff to talk about things in between our quarterly board meetings. Attend conference, that's kind of a requirement for the most part. I don't know that I've ever seen a president not attend conference, so I'll say that's a requirement, even though I'm not 100% for sure if it is. And participate there. Like I gave part of the closing plenary at conference last year. It's not a have to, it's an ask. I got wrapped as a mummy. That one usually they beg you for. So, you know, if you don't like being wrapped as a mummy, maybe you can talk them into something else, but it's not all bad. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, so that's kind of the president-elect. It's like being the president or the chair of any other like nonprofit board you've been a part of, just on a little bit larger scale because we're talking about statewide versus a local organization you'd work with. And then the vice president position is also going to be open this year. It is also a 3-year term. The vice president is really like second in command to the board. Although the interesting part is because of our president-elect cycle, sometimes they're actually kind of like third in command. It's a great way to get involved in the administrative executive team side of the board. So taking a step up from like the regional rep positions, similar requirements in terms of attending those board meetings, attending the executive committee meetings, attending conference and participating there, and then representing NASW well and the profession well, you know, when you're out in the working world and engaging with social workers in the community, but not so much the responsibilities of administering the meetings and running those meetings and kind of being the voice, unless the president and or the president-elect are not able to do so, depending on where you're at in your term cycle. So it's a nice way to get more involved in the administrative side before jumping fully into like president, if that's something you think you may be interested in at some point in the future. I think that's it without having any notes, Jess. And Jess is so great. And she hyperlinked the full descriptions of each role there, which includes some of those requirements I was talking about. So Marisol asked about financial commitments, if any, for these positions. And the truth is we have no formal financial requirements. Other than that, there are some positions where we do expect you to do your best to try to attend conference. And we say do your best because we know life happens. And we've had board members that aren't able to come to conference, even though we have the board meeting there for that meeting each year. We have some that just financially aren't able to attend, and those things are okay. We work around that as best we can. And like for board members, when you do come to conference for that in-person board meeting, they typically pay mileage and 1 night of hotel to help you be able to stay and attend the board meeting. And so there are some of those sorts of things where we can reimburse you for that. That may be helpful. The board, sometimes we vote and choose to donate money to the chapter raffle at conference. Again, it's not a have to, it's an ask, and if you want to and if you're able to. So there's some of those sorts of things, but there's none of it that's like a formal, you have to spend money to be in these volunteer positions requirements, if that makes
And at
sense.
the branch level too, there is a small, basically pot of money at every branch for programming. And so that is dependent on how many members you have in your local area, in your local branch area. And so there is like reimbursement if someone wanted to, just do it on their own and then get reimbursed later. But most will just be coordinate with their office administrator to make all purchases using that branch money. So yeah, it's very unlikely that you will need to spend your money on anything related to leadership, except for maybe the things that Brandy has mentioned that are not required. Okay, great. And then Virginia, you had one question, and then let's move on
I
to
didn't have a
application stuff.
question. I just wanted to mention when you were talking, when Andy was talking about the board positions. I was on the board for 4 years, way back, gosh, 2008 to 2012. And it was just after we reconstructed the administrative organization of it. But anyway, one of the things I wanted to say was, just because it sounds, you're a board member, that doesn't mean you have to know a lot of stuff before you decide to put your name forward and and submit a self-nomination for that position. And you may run against somebody, or you may be running alone, but it's an elected position. But in addition to bringing things to the board that people in your region have concerns about, bringing back to the people in the region what's going on at the board meetings. And the other thing about it is, you don't have to know a lot of stuff about the activities of statewide NASW organization to put your name forward to see if you can get elected. At the same time, it doesn't mean that you know a lot about how everything works, and a lot of people. I found that in my time on the board, I met so many people in those 4 years from all over the state that I've known, and we've become friends. And I mean, it's nice to have networking on the local level, but it's really, really nice to have networking on the state level. And also being in that position allowed me to know more about the structure of how things work at the state level, so that if somebody in my region, Region 6, which is Houston, said, well, I don't understand why we can't do X and Y and Z, and I don't understand what, it's like, okay, now that I'm on the board, I'm going to these meetings and I'm getting information, I can explain to them in, layman's terms, okay, this is why this certain thing is the way it is right now. It doesn't mean that your concern isn't important. It just means, here I'm going to explain to you what it is. If that satisfies you, that's fine. If it doesn't, tell me what kind of information you would need, and then we can get you more information so that you know more, or you can get your concern brought up so that maybe we can look at doing something different, because you are, after all, a member of our organization. So being a board member really was fascinating, but also it was very helpful going up and going down. And I would encourage anybody, whether you know a lot of people in NASW or not, or know very much about the structure of NASW or not, if that sounds like something you would at least like to try to do, go ahead for it. It's not that it's hard. It's not that, you're going to get into it and then, oh my God, you're going to be left to your own devices. That's why the rest of the board is there to help you and support you. So anyway, I just wanted to say that.
Thanks, y'all. I do want to make sure that we're getting through everything. Okay, yeah, I'll go ahead and give it to you just real quick while you have your hand raised, if you want to make your quick comment or question. And then I think we had a question in the chat as well, so I'll go to the hand raise first.
I'm working on the chat question.
Okay, I'm Cleont again. So my question is, if a person wants, let me just own it. If I'm interested in participating, but my network is very shallow because my practice, I do mental health online work, is in California, hoping to be more involved with the, my local branch at North Texas. So my question is, how would one expect, or how would I expect to get elected if I'm not known and I'm not visible?
Totally. So on the next page, I have some tips. So I'm gonna just kind of re-answer that on the next page, if that's okay with you, because I think that will answer some of your question. Just to kind of describe the process a bit more so that you can understand what it will look like, and what the dynamic typically is in participation in these elections. So just to look at the timeline, just so we can get some dates written down before I go over some tips and tricks and things to remember, for actually running for a position. So nominations are due on February 9th. And so we like to have this, info session with enough time for y'all to like kind of think about it and do it within the next couple of weeks. So they've been open for a while. And so we're hoping that folks will be able to get it in by then. We need to extend it a couple more days because we really, have folks wanting to submit, then we'll talk about it. But it is February 9th as of right now. So we hope that you all respect that deadline. The election cycle and when folks will actually be voting, it is open for an entire month. So from April 15th to May 15th, at the chapter level, we are promoting open elections, trying to get people to vote on their leadership. May 24th is when the results are announced. So if you're putting your name in the hat for one of these roles, we, urge you to keep a lookout on May 24th. And then your term will begin in July. And I think that there was a question about SLLI and when that training happens. As answered in the chat, it is virtual and will be held that summer, kind of post term beginning. And that's when we really kind of get everybody trained up and feeling good about the leadership roles that they've stepped into. Looking at application tips. So I'm going to answer your question first and then we'll go over the slide, but I just wanted to have this up while I talked about it. Just because, so essentially for the position statement, that is essentially like what is seen by the rest of the members that are voting. It's actually not super common in my experience for the members that are participating in elections to have like a strong knowledge of the candidates. It usually feels pretty just like I'm voting based on that position statement. And that's it. Like, really, it is your opportunity to communicate your intention in this position and why you would be good in this role. And so, Brandy, I see you coming off mute. Do you want to add to that?
I was just gonna say, it's not a lot of words. I will
No.
tell you, 75 words and 200
Yeah.
words are not very many
Super
words.
short.
So when you're writing that position statement, it really comes down to like, what are the things you want people to know about why you want to be in this position? And 9 times out of 10, that's what people get elected on, truthfully.
Yeah.
I mean, your photos there, your credentials there, your history of involvement with NASW is also listed there. But the position statement is typically the biggest portion of what people see when they go to look at information for elections. So that's often what people go off of when they're making election decisions, to your question, Clint.
And, in that same light, like, it's actually pretty uncommon for folks to campaign very strongly. Like, that's actually not something that, like, I've really witnessed, is like anyone really kind of pushing hard for that. And like, someday I would love to see, this like highly competitive, like, fun, campaign environment. But I think in the current state, the scope of your network is actually not the deciding factor in these elections. It is really just like, you being able to articulate, your goals and who you are. And, I hope that answers your question.
In 39 years, I've never seen anybody quote unquote campaign.
Yeah. It really is just like, being able to express interest in the position, and then based on the position statement, folks choose who they feel aligns. And so, if you're applying for a local position, only the people in your local area can vote on that position. If you're applying for a statewide position or a regional position, you know, it's all based on kind of where you're located. So if you're running for a branch position, you know, people outside of your branch will not be able to vote for that role. And so that's also something just to consider, that there will be a different number of positions to vote on depending on where you're located. A couple other tips for the application. So just wanted to point out that the online form must be completed in one sitting. It's not something that can be saved and come back to later. And so our office administrator recommends that you use the downloadable PDF version just to make sure that everything is included. If you want to start filling it out and then, you know, come back later and copy it over, that way it's all there. And also just to remind folks, you have to be logged in to our website as an NASW-TX member in order to access that online form. And so that link I sent, that NASW-TX Elections 24, that is the election hub. That's, you go down to the bottom, it says submit application, and it'll make you log in. So if you're having trouble accessing it, just making sure you're logged in on the website. Do not attach your resume. There is a very specific application and we ask that you fill it out. The resume will not count. So please, you know, be able to communicate kind of resume highlights throughout the application. And so it might be a beautiful resume, but if you didn't tell us anything about it in the other documents, then we won't know. And then I think we did talk about position statements a little bit. There's limited, you know, guidance. There's not a specific prompt. It really is just like, you know, who are you, and, you know, how do you plan to show up in this role, and like, what are your intentions for the position that you're seeking? For president-elect, vice chair, NLIC chair, treasurer, and secretary, all that is a 200-word statement, and then 75 words for everybody else. And then finally, you know, we also provide, and I'll send this PowerPoint out, a list of candidate position statements from years prior, just so you can see how your information will be presented, to give examples. And I'm going to keep moving just to make sure we're good on time here. Looks like we got 9 minutes. And then other ways to get involved. So we've talked a lot about branches in general. You know, we talk about branch chairs and NLIC and steering committee. Like, those are all the folks that make the local branch run. So if you are, maybe you do apply to be branch chair or NLIC and then don't get it, we really don't want to lose that motivation to be involved, because really it's a group effort, right? And so we just want to make sure, like, maybe if you know, your branch positions aren't on the ballot or you are not selected, please, please, please still stay involved with that steering committee, right? Like, it is not a very tense environment around these things typically. And so we see this happen a lot where, you know, leaders will put their name out for something, they don't get it, but they find another way to stay engaged. And also, if you're just like timid to step into an elected leadership position, some of these optional non-elected positions can also feel just a little bit less committed, even though we typically are really respectful of our volunteers' times, or try to be. But our local steering committees are essentially the core of our branches. So a branch could have a couple other committees at the local level, but essentially, like, the rest of the steering committee is the planning committee, and they put on the programming, and they help, you know, do the communication and the outreach and the engagement levels at the local level. Other committee opportunities at the state level, our equity committees really help to generate policy response statements during legislative or political crises. So we have our Race Equity, Accountability, and Leadership Committee, REAL, our LGBTQIA+ Rights Committee, our Women's Rights Committee, and our Human Rights Committee. And human rights could use a little bit of extra support these days. We really would like to get it up and running, to get some good leaders in there. So if you would love to get your hands on the Human Rights Committee, you can definitely reach out to me and we can talk strategy. It's not elected. I just need folks to step up. Our operational committees, I am the staff support for the Member and Leadership Engagement Committee, which Virginia has already shown that she is a part of as well. Our ethics committee, our strategic planning committee, which helps to do the 3-year strategic plan that is active right now, and then TPACE, so our political action committee for NASW Texas. That is also open right now, and applications are separate from elections. So if y'all are interested in serving on the political PAC, then that bit.ly right there is where those applications would be submitted, which is even sooner than our election deadline. Crazy. And then a couple other things happening. So we have a call for proposals for the conference right now. If you are someone who has an incredible social work topic to share, knowledge about the profession, or a unique perspective, we really hope that you'll submit a proposal for our conference. Oh,
They
dang
changed
it. This is
it's the 14th.
outdated. This is outdated. I'm so sorry, y'all. So this is not correct. We'll be in Irving, Texas this year. And I have the updated blurb, but that's my bad. And then we're also looking for abstract readers and conference planners. So if anyone's interested in supporting the conference committee or being an abstract reader to review proposals or submitting one yourself, I really encourage you to. And all that information can be accessed on our website. There's a banner on our website that links to the page. And then the last thing that's happening is Social Work Advocacy Day. It's in like 2 months. And if all of y'all are interested in leadership, then I know you'll want to show up for Social Work Advocacy Day. So I am going to just really briefly play this promo video that we staff worked really hard on. So before we close out. NASW Texas is thrilled to announce that Social Work Advocacy Day 2024 will be held on March 22nd in Austin, Texas. Social work professionals and students from across the state are invited to join us for this annual day of political action.
We'll begin the day at UT campus at the LBJ Auditorium with breakfast being served. And during the morning of the event, we'll provide a primer to the legislative process. We'll also have special guests joining us to share their own expertise on how to build relationships with your representatives so that you can be an educated advocate even after the event and during.
Afternoon programming at the Texas Capitol will include a rally on the South Steps, a panel of legislative staffers, and a legislative advocacy workshop.
Registration is $15 and opens on January 17th. If you are a student, be sure to please check with your social work faculty at your institution for a group registration.
The NASW Code of Ethics states social workers should be aware of the impact of the political arena on practice and should advocate for changes in policy and legislation to improve the social conditions to meet basic human needs and promote social justice.
This core value underlies all that we do at Social Work Advocacy Day, where we bring social workers, students, and allies together to uplift the voices of the profession and mobilize for impactful legislative change.
It is so important that we see you there because those numbers show our legislators just how many social workers there are across Texas that care about the political process.
This is your chance to build your macro skill set, network with social workers from across the state, and advocate for the profession and the communities we serve. You won't want to miss this. All right, y'all. That's all their programming for today, but we do have a couple minutes in case folks have questions. But essentially, we are here to provide support to anyone who is seeking leadership, whether that is through an elected position through these formal elections or even just on a committee. But we really hope that y'all will step into leadership and, start building community with the rest of us. I really am just excited to know y'all and get y'all more involved. So thank you all for coming out, and everyone will receive the PowerPoint after this. Get your applications in. February 9th. It's coming up quick. All right, y'all. Have a good night. Thank you again.
Thanks everyone for being here. It was great to interact with you all.
Great job, Brandy and
everyone.
Wes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Have a good night. Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Okay.